Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve.
Well, hi everybody, and thanks again for tuning in. So we've been Alex and I have had a couple of week break. So um, this episode is we come refreshed and renewed back from that break. And as this episode is really a bit of a continuation from the previous one where I talked about my career so far, kind of going into a bit of the detail around accounting and some of the career options and a bit about the things that I've done. And now it's the turn of Alex to talk about his career so far. And we're really looking forward to this. So, apart from the structure, it's going to be, we've got a kind of fairly high level structure of what we want to talk about, but we're hoping there's going to be lots of conversation between us and hopefully get you some interesting nuggets of information around the nursing profession and other um, life tips from Alex. And I think, yeah, as ever, if there's anything that you hear on throughout the podcast that you want clarifications or questions on, yeah, please feel free to get in touch with us. So yeah, really excited for this one, Alex.
You're getting proper good at these intros. So thank you for that. So yeah, as Alex said, we've had a bit of a gap. It's probably entirely my fault. I had a birthday in between, so I went on holiday for a week. So we've had a little bit of a short break. I feel a lot better, kind of from having a week off. So anyone out there who's not using their holiday or their annual leave, use it, please. At least rest, recoup. So yeah, last time we got a real in-depth view on really how to become an accountant. So I learned a lot from that, and there was a lot of organic thought going on. I had some quite good questions, I think, as well. So we're going to basically do the same, but opposite. So it's kind of my turn. So when obviously I haven't always been a nurse, and there are many types of nurse. I'm not a general nurse. There is a type of general nurse. I'm a mental health nurse. It's also known as an RMN, so registered mental health nurse. It's got many kind of other titles. You can be a learning disabilities nurse, an intellectual disabilities nurse, a mental nurse, and a mental health nurse. They're all the same thing, basically. So we work with people who need mental health support, whether that's in kind of all factors as well. I've obviously specialised later in my career, but I was because I've not always been trained. I had some other careers up until nursing, but I was actually 28 when I started my nursing degree. So I'd done loads of jobs in between, anything from working at PC World to selling broadband for BT, and then all the way back to teens and working in a carpet factory and stuff. So I've done some things. Nursing by far is my favourite job, and it also pays me the most. So I get a lot of meaning out of the work that I do. So yeah, so I'm 28. I'm working at a hospital for people with learning disabilities, and who have come under the criminal justice system, and they've been given a mental health section that mandates they're in hospital and looked after by a psychiatrist and a team of other people. I took a job there as a support worker. Couldn't hack selling for BT anymore. So I applied for loads of jobs. This is the only job that came back to me, and they offered me an interview, and I took it. And I really actually enjoyed it. And was I 24? I think maybe late 23. So I worked there 3 years, and then I got friendly with one of the nurses there called Calaboo, and he said, Alex, if you're going to do this kind of work for 3 years or longer, you should do your nurse training. He'd been a nurse a long time at that point in the mental health field. He was very good at it. I learned a lot from him. So, yeah, my thank you to you, Calaboo. Um, so I did. I approached my employer. Basically I couldn't afford to take 3 years out and do the job. So I approached my employer and I said, "Look, will you fund me to do my nurse training?" And they said, "Okay," which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to have to reason it and justify, but they were like, "No, sure, go for it." So on the proviso that I would return and work at the same hospital for paying me some of my funding. And it's important to note here that the my nursing degree was funded by the government. There was no student loans at that point, and I also luckily was one of the last years to get a bursary to train. So I got, I think, £450 a month as a bursary from the government or the NHS, wherever that pot of money comes from. And I got, I think, £300 from my employer as just like a training supplement to go. So I was earning about half, no, not half, that's not right, about 75% of what I used to earn. And this was, what was it? I was 26, so probably 2014, right? And I earned just over £1,100 a month at that point. So it went some way to kind of funding my learning and my kind of food and stuff, which was helpful. So I did that. I rock up at Canterbury University, September 2016, and immediately feel out of my depth when they talk about all these different things. But there's a lot of us in the cohort. There was 36 people signed up to do the course, and only 18 of us finished. There was a humongous dropout rate in year one. When people decide it's not for them, things are too much, they actually want to be a radiographer or something totally different, or they just don't want to do nursing at all. It's not what they thought. So I work through that. So it's 50% lectures and exams, and the coursework or essays and stuff, and it's 50% placement where you basically should go and shadow practicing nurses. So it's a 50-50 thing. It was not an easy task. I was using a lot of hours in the day. Like for placements, I'd have to be in for morning handover at 7:30 a.m. and it would be an hour away from my house. So I'd start my little Nissan Micra, the beige one, the one that looks like a bubble, a bit like a frog or a hearing aid, at like 5:30 to make sure I get there on time and I find somewhere to park, etc. And it's freezing cold in January, and it really takes it out of you. It's a lot to go through. So you have to put in every year of the 3-year degree, you have to do something like, I want to say it's 2,700 hours total of shadowed clinical practice. So what does that work out to be? 900 hours per year? And you have to log these. You have to have them signed off by one of your mentors or someone who works wherever your placement is. And it's a real slog. I remember putting in kind of 10, 12-hour days, coming home, writing essays, waking up at 6 to kind of go again. And it's a real, like, I don't really remember a lot of that time because I was just on autopilot doing all of these things. And my wife was just supporting me through the whole thing. I literally could not have done it without her, like mentally, physically, financially as well. Would have really struggled. So, Nicole, if you ever listen to this, my sincere thanks to you. Do you have a question at this point, or no?
Yeah, I've got a few questions. I mean, firstly, like kudos for doing that, because that is a significant investment of time. Just, I think probably a few things I took away just from that first bit is even just like when you went to ask your employer if you could do the training, one of my questions was going to literally I wrote down was like how did you justify it? But it seems as if they were pretty amenable to do that. But I think it shows how even there's no harm in trying and asking a question at all, because that was a really positive result. Secondly, just on I guess you took a pay cut, for want of a better word, where you got the bursary and then your employer paid for like your part of your training. And how did you kind of go about managing that, like the financing aspect of it? And was that a big decision, kind of knowing that you're going to take this time to almost invest in your career, knowing that at the other end of this kind of 3 years of hard work and sacrifice, that would then pay off at, with higher salary and higher, career prospects and job stability and things?
Sure. I think I'll do one just answer the questions in order, basically. So I think it matters how you ask the question. So if I were to say, approach my employer and say, look, I need you to fund me every single month because I want to do this training. And basically it works out at, what is it, $350 a month? I can't do this maths in my head, but it's nearly about 10, 11,000, something like that. if you say, I need 11 grand to do this training, can you do it? Is a very different story to going in and saying, look, I can see that you need nurses here, and that they work, that they have kind of a lot of impact, etc. And it's important to note as well, at this point, the hospital were understaffed. So that was on my side. They were using agency nurses to fill posts, and they are very expensive. So I went in and I just said to the lady who used to be a nurse, and that was her original job, and then she kind of moved up the bands and stuff. And I said, look, I want to be, I know I can be and do more things in life. I've decided I want to do nursing for these reasons, and it's around being more useful to all of our patients, and being kind of having more say in things. It might be wrong, but having a clinical background and having a registration, it gives me more clout with decision making and in meetings and stuff. So, and I said to them, this is what I want to do. These are the reasons why I want to do it. How can you help me to achieve that? And in return, I'm willing to come back and work for you when we're done. It's a double whammy, like of positive. So they get another nurse back. It takes them a little, and their only downside is they have to wait 3 years for me to get it done. I'm backing myself that academically I can do the course. My wife is on board. It was her idea, to be honest. At the beginning, she was like, do it. That I knew I would have that support as well. And at the same time, I didn't know this at the time, but it's the last year that the course was funded by the government before they went back on all those decisions because they got a lack of applications. So the degree wasn't going to cost me anything. I didn't have any student loans. I was eligible for the bursary, and I had my employer support as well, and my wife's support. So I have everything. It's as good as it can be for me at that point. Like, I didn't see a downside. Yes, it's tough, but I can make this happen. And when you have that, like, you're going to be an accountant for life, should you want to be. I'll be a nurse for life if I want to be. Nobody can take that level of education away from you. Like, no one can come to you, Alex, one day and be like, bam, you're not an accountant anymore. It's just not happening. So that's how I did it. And I left it with them. I said, no pressure. Her name was Emma. And I just said, no pressure, Emma, but like, come back to me when you can. And it took about a week, and she said, no, we can do this. Like, I'm happy to help you along the way. Have a meeting with me and one of the HR people, and they and do your application to the university. And if you need a reference letter, let me know. So they were incredibly amenable, and I'm very grateful to them. And what I had to do was, just do the nursing course, pass all the stuff and get my registration, right? And B, on good faith, promise to go back there. So I didn't sign anything to say I must go back or I will go back or anything like that. And it's really like a good faith agreement that if I do this, you will do that. And roundabout, everybody wins. So I did that. My initial agreement as well was to work one shift a week as part of that kind of overtime as well for the hospital. And I really quickly realized that it's just not doable in terms of working kind of a regular job in terms of placement and going to lectures and sitting exams and doing all your coursework. I basically had to redact it, and I was like, I can't feasibly do this. I need to sleep as well. And she said, fine, focus on your studies, come back when you're done, perhaps do the odd shift now and then. I'll talk to your charge nurse and just say, like, this is now the new situation. So they were flexible. They bent with that, which was really kind of them as well. So I do 3 years of nursing. It involves 50% practice, shadowed practice, 50% coursework. So we have multiple lectures per week, lots of coursework to do, exams every year. So I have a biology exam every year. I had a law and ethics exam in year 2. I had medicines management exams every year as well. It's hefty. So just a little bit of thinking about, if you do want to do nursing, pick your specialism, whether you want to be a general nurse, a mental health nurse, you want to be an occupational therapist, any other kind of health thing. Right now, as of 2024, I believe there are no fees for that. The government will pay those for you. So now is a good time to do it. They need people like us to kind of prop up the health service as best they can. But go in with your eyes open. I would say get a healthcare assistant job somewhere, see what it's actually like, speak to the nursing staff there. Do they look stressed? Do they cry? Do they look permanently exhausted? Who knows?
I can imagine.
And
Yeah,
just dip your
yes,
toes
yes, and
in.
yes. For
But probably right. Just dip your toes in and just see if you actually want to commit yourself to that, because it's a huge time commitment. It's a huge learning commitment, and if you do end up taking like maintenance loans and student loans and stuff that you need, it's going to have a financial implication as well, like longer term. I was incredibly fortunate, like all my ducks lined up in a row for that to happen to me, and no planning on my part, apart from planning it with my employer. It just so happened to be the last year the government funded it, and the last year I was eligible for the bursary. So I do it 2 years later or a year later, and I'm saddled with 9K's worth of debt per year and no bursary. And if that was the case, I just couldn't have done it. It's not doable.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions actually, is if given the circumstances now with the student loans and everything, if you would have gone ahead and done it. But yeah, it sounds like it would be
Probably
not
not.
feasible. Yeah.
No, really not. And I really feel for all the nurses that have these horrendous student loans now. It's purely a timing thing, I reckon. And the government have redacted all of that anyway, because I think after they stopped the funding the courses and giving the bursary, I think there was something like a 25% decrease in applications. And imagine losing like 25% of your clinical staff or your nursing staff in 5 to 10 years' time. It would be absolute chaos. So I'm really glad they've undone that. So yeah, I do 3 years worth. I go through 3 cars at that point going to placement, and I go all over. Like, so I live in central Kent. I went all over Kent. So uh, I had 3 placements in first year. One of the first one, dementia unit. Me and a friend of mine, a student, rock up at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning to the ward in the corner of Kent in Margate, and it's freezing cold in January. And the first thing we walk into is one of the healthcare assistants, a guy called John, had a beard. He was a good fella. He was basically running down the corridor to help a man who I think he'd fallen off a chair or something. Straight away, we're just like chucked in at the deep end. And they're like, I know you've been here 2 minutes. This is my name. I'm one of the nurses here. Would you mind carrying this as we run down to this guy who's on the floor? And I was just like, you just kind of thrown into it, and I just kind of existed, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just handing people stuff if they were asking me, and it was heavy in terms of that. So yeah, first up was dementia. That all placements as well, they last about 3 months while you get your hours in, and you kind of have some days off for lectures, you have some days off for exams, but majority you are shadowing one of the other nurses that are there. So in terms of placement, so I had dementia, number one. I had really kind of learning disabilities and communication as a placement, which was on a day centre on the Isle of Sheppey. And it's so far removed from the hospital ward environment of dementia. I was doing yoga on the beach and Tai Chi and stuff, and going bowling at a day centre. And I was like, what is this? This is so far away from what I was expecting to be gloves and gowns and blood and whatever, all sorts. None of that. Just Tai Chi on the beach, communication, and like some peg feeds and stuff. So there was that. In the middle of my second placement, I had my appendix removed. So I had a really bad pain one afternoon when I was there, and I was like, guys, I don't feel well. Traveled all the way home, an hour and a half, something, still felt horrendous. And my wife rang 111, went in to see an out of hours doctor at the hospital, and he sent me straight for surgery at a different hospital. And the next day I had my appendix out. And I remember that because I didn't eat anything for about 22 hours because the surgeon was like, you need to be nil by mouth. And I was like, I've not eaten all day. Can I just have a bourbon? And he was like, yes, but only one. And he gives me one, and then I basically stay there a couple of days and have my appendix out, get a raging water infection, spend a few days there, and then come back home, rest up a bit, and go back to placement. I think I was off about 4 days total.
Oh wow!
and I was back with, I've got some keyhole scars and all sorts of stuff. But whilst I was on placement, I learned a little bit of Makaton because some of their communication for the people with learning disabilities is hand gestures, like non-verbal. And I learned a couple of letters like A, B, C, and D, and E, I think, and how to sign each letter with my hands. So I learned that whilst doing kind of in between yoga and lunch or something on one day. And then I go into this recovery ward after having my appendix taken out. And there's a guy with learning disabilities in the bay opposite me, and he keeps doing the sign for sister, which is a symbol kind of with your hands that you can't see. And he does this, and also a sign on his face for C. And it turns out his sister's name is Caroline, and he wanted to know when she was going to visit him. And all the other people there were like, I've no idea what this guy means. His name's Charlie, and I just don't have a clue. He keeps doing this symbol. And I was like, actually, I think it means sister, and it means this symbol is a C. And they said, oh, this lady called Caroline keeps ringing about him. I was like, right, so maybe they're linked, right? So, and all they did was ring the sister, and she said, I'm going to come and visit him this afternoon. And he was getting a bit kind of agitated at this point. And one of the nurses just said to him, like, your sister's going to come and see you later. And he was happy as pie then. And if I hadn't learned that the day before, I don't know how he would have got that message across. So in terms of learning communication, it was massively important. I do hope that guy was all right. He was much older than me. I was the youngest person on the ward by 4 decades at least. And I was 28, I think, at the time, which was, a bit mad. But yeah, so appendectomy, in and out. Final placement of that year was physical health at a place in Maidstone, which was just all round chaos. The speed in which people get admitted, treated, and discharged in mental health wards is astounding. You can leave on a Friday, have the weekend off, come in, and half the people are different on a Monday morning. It was absolutely crazy. So I did an awful lot of, I basically bread and buttered physical health whilst I was there. One of the nurses I worked with, a lady called Anna, was incredible. She was great. And at one point during this, we had to escort a guy to the main A&E hospital. And as a first-year student nurse, I fainted in the middle of Maidstone A&E because I watched a man have something called arterial blood gas taken, where they take a lot of blood and gas out of your wrist. Double painful for the person experiencing it. And a load of blood shot out. And I was just, I turned to my mentor at that point called Lara, and I was like, Lara, I don't feel. And then bam, I was on the floor. Luckily, she caught me before my head hit the floor. And they offered me a bed on the ward. And I was like, I've got work to do. Like, I can't be here. They just put me in a corner and put my feet up until my blood pressure returned to normal. And one of the other RMNs that was around, so another mental health nurse, he said, maybe you should kind of quit this and work at McDonald's. And I was like, all right, thanks, dude. Much appreciated.
Good advice.
Yeah, I'll endeavor to never be like you, right? If I ever see a student struggle with something. So yeah, that was year one. It's a lot, kind of a lot to go through, but you kind of get handheld by the uni. In first year, you don't have to do a huge amount of things. Because you're kind of new, you're learning your stuff. When you get to second year, you're expected to kind of step up and know stuff. So you kind of get told to do all the obs for people, and if anything's out of range, help correct it. And then only if you cannot correct it and they remain out of range for a bit of time, then you'll go and ask one of the nurses. So it's useful in that respect. You kind of have to step up and do things. I had 2 longer placements, about 4 months each that year. One was in a community mental health hub, which was a bit astounding. I just found it pretty overwhelming to begin with, but once I learned some processes and stuff, it was helpful. That was, community mental health. And then I went on to a ward for female acute mental health crisis at that point, which is in a mental health hospital. And the team there were great. I could do 14-hour days, jobs are good, and etc. Probably the most eye-opening thing I've ever done, and really got thrown in at the deep end. They were like, you're end of year 2 now. Next year is your final year, and then you're done. So at some point, we're going to switch places, and I'm going to get you to kind of give me your thoughts and and stuff on things. And there's all sorts going on. There's admissions, there's discharges, there's crisis planning, there's people absconding. I let one of the patients out the door myself by accident. They said they're a lawyer, they're wearing a suit. I let them out the door and they were like, "Where's this lady?" And I was like, "She's the lawyer. She's just left." And they're like, "She's not a lawyer. She's a patient. What was she wearing? I'll phone the police." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is week one of me going on placement and I've already goofed something." It turns out it happens a lot. And the police brought her back a couple of hours later. And I learned a lot from that. Never let somebody out the door, even if they say they're a lawyer.
That's it. Oh God, it sounds like such a variety of experience, and yeah, and I think probably like from the outside, the kind of hearing this, bearing in mind my parents and my sister are all nurses, I didn't fully appreciate, I guess, the level of variety. I guess people just, you look at, oh, you're a nurse, you're going to be the that you think mental health nurse, like you probably just think of, you're going to be looking after patients who are trying to escape by telling people they're lawyers. But it's fascinating just to hear that level of variety that you get access to, and also the nice kind of that balance of support and being pushed and challenged at the
Yeah,
same
you need
time.
it.
I think,
Yeah, you need
yeah,
both, and it's a balance. It can be unbelievably stressful, but knowing like when you're in a ward, it's kind of contained, and if you pull your alarm bell because something terrible's happening and you need people to turn up, you pull it and people arrive. Like doors open, people come running. It's actually really it's a safe place to go. So people always say like when you first start, cut your teeth on a ward because it's a contained environment. Like you have people that can arrive at all hours of the day, and you always, when you come off shift and say you've worked, I don't know, 7 till 3, an early or a late or a night or something, you're handing over to another set of staff. So stuff is still getting managed, and things are easier. So within kind of that, you see so much variety because people don't come in for the same thing. And this ward I was working on had, I think, had 12 beds or something like that. And it's got a full team of kind of staff, HCAs, nurses, a ward manager, pharmacist, a doctor, um, occupational therapist, a psychology kind of person. It's kind of crazy. There's lots of stuff going on, and everyone needs different things. So people come in towards for their own safety, and it doesn't kind of mean that everyone there wants to complete suicide or they're just self-harming all day, or they're just in a crisis point and they don't feel safe in the community or at home. So it's generally used as a short-term kind of thing. They might just need some medicine sorting out, or they might have, I don't know, untreated epilepsy, and we sort that and send them on their way. It's really, really varied. Like no one person comes in with the exact same kind of set of symptoms. So it's I saw an awful lot of stuff there, and weirdly, on most placements I had, and just thinking about being a substance misuse nurse now, there's always been in most placements a substance issue that I've come across. So my first experience with opiates or heroin was a kind of an 80-something-year-old lady on that ward, and she came in on a huge dose of methadone. Like it'd probably kill an average person, to be honest. If you or I drink that, we're probably going to die.
mm,
She's so used
wow,
to taking her. She's this tiny little old lady, and she comes in on 120 mils of methadone a day. And for those people who don't know, an average normal dose that's therapeutic is 60. So for this tiny lady to take double that means her kind of threshold or tolerance for opiates is through the roof. And I was so surprised, and that my mentor got me to measure it out, and she was like, "Make sure it is 100% accurate. Measure 100 mils in this cup because it's got kind of good measuring things up the side, and measure 20 in this cup, and then combine every single drop. This lady will measure it, and she will feel the difference." And that was that, and we kind of sorted that bit out, and then refer on to a substance team to pick that back up. And it was huge. And the knowledge the team must have about loads of different things is crazy, and picking up different symptoms. And someone noticed that she had some symptoms of opiate withdrawal. And I was just like, well, what are they? And they were like, I'm not going to tell you, look them up and then come back and tell me. And I've always remembered that. And it's someone seeing something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, thinking outside the box, and then probing the person and asking the right questions and liaising with other teams to get the right answer. Because you can mistake it for so many different things. And actually, they're just in withdrawal and they need something like that. So yeah, that was probably the most eye-opening ward I worked on. Yeah, luckily passed all my exams. Had a horrendous biology exam for year 2. We spent hours and hours in the library studying for that. It was brutal, and you need obviously high grades to pass all of these exams. So that was second year. You kind of don't get handheld in second year. So either your kind of staff at the university or lecturers and your kind of tutors and stuff, they're hand holding the year ones and they're helping the third years like graduate. And so in year 2, you really find your feet and you believe kind of you can do this. You believe in who you are and what you can do and what you're capable of. So that really was the turning point for me. I would credit that to being the time that I learned the absolute most about who I am, alongside the clinical kind of stuff and the other knowledge you have to have. Then we come to final year and things get a bit real. And then I ended up on I had a children's adolescent unit way out near Tunbridge at that point. And these are all kids kind of 12 to 17. On your 18th birthday, you get discharged and you get sent somewhere else. It's always baffled me that you're a child in the eyes of the Mental Health Act and the law, and you can be 17 in 360 days, but wait another week and bam, you're an adult, out you go into the world. And the kids are fantastic, and they've got some real difficult stories that come by, and you kind of, once you dig a little bit into it, you realize why they're there and what they've been through, and how trauma impacts how people view the world. So traumatic things are difficult to deal with, and we're talking big T trauma here, not that your washing machine doesn't work or it's kind of frustrating. We're talking adverse childhood events, or ACEs, they're known in the profession, and I'm not going to delve into them because they're kind of horrible.
I can imagine.
That's kind of where you learn that people are surviving. They change how they view the world, and the true trauma there is how they now see the world around them. And if you think about the stages of development from a guy called Erik Erikson, and it's the initial ones are like you either trust in people, parenthood, your caregivers, or you mistrust them. And depends on which side you fall of these. And if you fall on the wrong side, the negative side of all of these, you're kind of living life on double hard mode. And it gets really, really difficult, and you do need kind of professional help. And I've never seen such sadness and such joy in the same place. And it's really kind of upside down. So you had up to 18 kids there all at once, and they're all wonderful, and they're all traumatized, and they're all capable of great things in life. And it's kind of anything from severe depression, so much so that you can't get out of bed, brush your teeth, change your clothes, to eating disorders. And you have people who just will not eat anything at all. And eating disorders in my opinion, the most dangerous mental health condition. It kills the most people per year. And it's just this battle in your brain, and your brain is telling you don't need to eat. You get body dysmorphia, and your organs shut down. And I remember seeing a young girl, there was kind of 15, 14 kind of time. And she got in such a state that one of the later things an eating disorder will do is not only will you lose weight, show your ribs, etc., be malnourished, but your body will compensate by growing hair to keep you warm. And I remember seeing really hairy ankles, and I was like, I've never seen this before on a 14-year-old. What is going on here? And I asked one of the other nurses, and she was like, she's had an eating disorder so long that her body is always cold. Shivering is not helping her warm up. So the body is compensated by growing loads of body hair to kind of retain heat, keep your core temperature up. And that fascinated me for one. And then she had a course of effective treatment. She was discharged whilst I was there. And then we heard, and by discharged, I mean she was back to a healthy weight. She was no longer a risk to herself. Things appeared to be going well. And then I heard, kind of through the grapevine, that this young lady was probably 15, something like that. She was kind of approached by a modeling agency to do some modeling for a clothes company or something. And one of the provisos was she remained the same body weight that she is. And I was like, we've spent months helping this lady out of this issue, and now you're saying you can only do this job if you stay the same weight. And I'm like, this is dangerous for the young person, and what kind of message does that bring and give you? It's totally backwards in every opinion.
It is bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. And at this point, we're getting to the stage where we do a lot of things in eating disorders called meal modeling, where we sit and I would eat next to a person with an eating issue or a table of them. And you'd have kind of glass tables, everything's weighed, calories are sorted by a dietitian, and everything is like, it's calorized to the gram, to the calorie, to keep people out of like potential harm, really. I mean, when you don't eat, your body compensates. You get to the stage where you have to be really careful in refeeding someone, so you avoid someone going into shock. And it's really big problematic in all sorts of ways. And we're talking people here who weigh kind of 35 kilos, and they're taller than 5 foot, and it's kind of, you're worrying about them being able to hold themselves up, and people are falling over and they're fainting, and their fluid balance is all out of whack, and it affects their blood pressure, their pulse rates through the roof, and it's all round problems. So, and this was a point where you'd sit opposite someone. I would model eating, and it would be, you'd eat a meal over half an hour. You'd have a glass table so people can't hide food, they can't throw it away, they can't stick it under the chair or anything like that, because these are all things people do. And you'd look at someone and they would say that they're overweight, and they'd look at their leg and say, look, my leg is fat. And I'd look at them and I'd look back at my own wrist and say, look, my wrist is thicker than your thigh. What you can see and what your brain is telling you is just not right. And it's a horrible place to be, and I don't wish it on a single soul. And I think it's primarily stemmed from the media depictions of what people should look like. And when you hear that message for so long, it changes how you think, and over time, it becomes a real problem. So it's it's difficult all round for sure. But again, learned an awful lot. It wasn't just an eating disorder unit. There's a combo of other mental health in there. The kids are fantastic. I did an awful lot of agency work there after qualifying, and you see some similar faces, and they kind of remember you, and they would say, look at me now, I'm doing really well, and you were really kind to me during your student days. And I was like, actually, that's lovely feedback. Would you mind writing that down?
Yeah.
I could kind of use it for revalidating and stuff. And you get such good kind of feedback from them. And I've still got the card they gave me after I finished my placement there, and they all wrote little messages in it. And one of the ladies there was incredibly good at art. And she drew me this really elaborate picture, because I was into kind of being vegan at that time, and I still am. And she drew a picture of a skull with ridiculous detail and intricacy and flowers and stuff all over. And at the bottom, she wrote "vegan to the bone," which was really, I've kept that ever since, and I'll always keep it, because it's kind of meaningful. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, that sounds like a super rewarding placement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and well, the time at I guess over the 3 years, I mean, what an amazing amount of experience.
Yeah. And at the beginning, I was like, when they said you're going to a child and adolescent unit, a friend of mine actually worked there, and she worked there a long time, did her nursing, and went back to work there and still does. And she said, like, Alex, you're going to love it. It's hard, but it's wonderful at the same time. It's like yin and yang. You can have great days and terrible days. And please persist with it. And I learned an awful lot, because when you're kind of in that stage and in that phase of life, and you're kind of 12 to 17, you're really finding out who you are and how you are supposed to kind of see the world. And for a regular person without capital T trauma, you kind of go through the motions and you kind of hit those milestones. But if you have those things, and it changes how you think and how you operate, how you see the world, the decisions you make are perfectly rational to you, but they're irrational to everyone else who's not been through what you've been through. And you can get some real good results out of it. Like the kids there get treated, they do really well, they go back home. And saying that as well, there was an entire school wing of this hospital, and there were 3 teachers and a kind of an exam board. So they stayed on top of their kind of GCSEs and stuff, which I thought was great. And I sat in on some of the classes as well, and they were actually really, really good. And that place does a lot of really good work all around. Yeah. So yeah, that was basically placement 1 of 3rd year. I was expecting a substance misuse placement, because I had a life-changing lecture from a chap called Piers. He talked to me about substance misuse for the whole kind of cohort of students, and everything he said made sense to me. And after that, I didn't leave Piers alone. I kind of bugged him until he gave me a kind of an email address for him, and then I was like, how can I learn to do what you do? How can I be you, is literally what I said to him. And he was like, you remind me of me, but I think it's a bit weird, but I'll help you. Come and shadow me for a bit over summer. Because I tried really hard to get a substance placement, just couldn't wangle it in any way, shape or form. Did all the pleading with all the right people, and just wasn't doable. So I ended up spending my last placement, which is managerial placement, where you kind of switch roles and you become the nurse with a fellow nurse to support you. You make the decisions, you make the calls, you work as a nurse with that added support. That was within the crisis team in the community. So we're visiting people at home, be discharged from hospital, like the ward in 2nd year, you get discharged under the crisis team for some additional support. You see stuff from kind of A&Es, ambulances, 999 calls and triage for mental health assessments, and you kind of turn up and kind of deal with that. And I'll finish the substance arc in a minute, but that really showed me how much people are struggling with their own mental health in the community. In hospitals, you see kind of the worst of the worst, the people who genuinely need to be there, but a lot of people struggle and they live day-to-day lives, and that's where kind of some substances come in as well. And people say, look, I drink a bit, smoke a bit, take a bit of whatever just to get through the day, because without it, I just find it kind of insurmountable. And at that point, I had the privilege of working with two psychiatrists, a chap who was a non-medical prescriber, loads of different occupations, like occupational therapists, there's nurses, general and RMNs that work there. And the crisis team boards, like your cohort of patients, changes. It seems by the hour. New people come in, kind of people get discharged, people get sent to hospital and back and forth. It's a humongous kind of job. And there I saw a couple of kind of assessments from doctors there. So you'd go out in the car with one of them in the morning and you basically hover and listen and do stuff. And they're doing mental health act assessments in the community. So in one day, saw 2 people. One lady jumped in a river, kind of was lucky to get pulled out by the fire brigade. It was decided that she just felt a bit low that day, so she would get some crisis team support. And turns out she split up with a partner that morning and just couldn't handle the emotions. So her next logical thought was jump in a river. And we're back to capital T trauma, childhood, not thinking rationally. Luckily, she was okay. And in the afternoon, went to see a different person, the other end of the county, actually, who was holed up in a block of flats. And he was experiencing first episode of psychosis. So he could see a person all dressed in black in the corner of his living room saying really horrible things to him all day, every day. And he just didn't want to come out, didn't want to do anything. The doctor and I had a translator because he didn't speak any English. we got locked in the building at that point, and it was a little bit terrifying. And then the guy was given the right medicine by the doctor at the right time. It was prescribed by the doctor. He talked me through all of his kind of thinking as well, which is really, really kind of him. The brother of the guy experiencing this psychosis went and got him the medicine the next day. And we saw him again a week later just to triage and see how he was doing. And he was like, it's gone. I feel so much better. Can I please have some more of this medicine? And the doctor was like, sure, have it. Get it from your GP. Job's a good one.
It must be very rewarding seeing something like that.
That turnaround is mad. It's really, really good. It took a lot for us to kind of organise that, because originally he would have been seen probably at A&E, but he just wouldn't go because he's terrified. And he can wholeheartedly see, feel, experience this. He described it as a hooded figure dressed in black sitting in the corner. And one of the questions our doctor asked him kind of cut through me quite a lot. And he said about all of these things. And then the doctor was like, can you see him now in this room? And can you hear him as clearly as you can hear me? And he said, yeah, he's sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God. So I know this guy's not here, right? Our doctor knows this guy's not here, but this patient guy in front of us, he can see and hear a third figure. A fourth figure, because there's me, the doctor, the guy, the patient, and the brother, all in the room. And it's like, for someone to experience a fifth person when there is no fifth person is strange. It's very, very strange. And if you have no idea what it's like to hear a voice, not your internal monologue, but to hear a voice as clearly as you hear me now, saying something derogatory or something different to you, you can YouTube just like what it's like to hear voices, and there's some clips of that of what someone goes through on a daily basis, and it's incredibly distracting, really difficult, and it changes how you think. If you're being told every day just horrible things, it's going to impact who you are now and how you see the world. So I think you never really know what someone else is kind of going through. And on the same token, some people like their voices. They champion them, and they're like, yeah, you can do this. Go for it. Do the thing. Go to the place. Get on the bus. Buy the sandwich. Whatever. Or it could be terrible. And so it's difficult, but it's treatable. Now that we know it. So that's basically a rundown of all my terrifying and wonderful and weird placements that I had as a student. And that's kind of how I got from there to now.
That's an incredible breadth of experience. And I guess would all nurse qualifications follow a same kind of path? So if people are listening and wanting to, and maybe thinking about going into the profession, if you went down that, I guess, like the mental health nurse route, do you know if it's like the same kind of structure that you'd have nowadays?
Yeah, so it would be similar. I mean, the curriculum changes with best practice seemingly year on year. So we had a lot of reflective practice as well involved. That I hope continues, but they get updated knowledge and things change, like the Mental Health Act gets updated and stuff. And you can read the entire Mental Health Act online. It was written in 1983 and amended in 2007, and it's a humongous book. And I actually got a copy of it at home. That was given to me by someone I met at a hospital once, full of annotations, which was very helpful. But generally, they would usually be the same. You would have a split of exams, coursework, and placements. So the placement's mandatory. You can't do nursing as a degree without it. I think it's pretty similar for things like teaching, for occupational therapy, radiography. You kind of have to do the job to learn the job as well. You can't read how to deal with someone in acute psychosis from a textbook. You kind of have to see it, experience it, know what to look out for, etc. The one thing I would say is do your research beforehand. It's not for the faint-hearted. A lot of, like, half the people dropped out of our course on the way to finishing it. But it's been the most rewarding thing I think I've ever done. It's changed me fundamentally as a person. I've become, like, if Alex, if you met me before I did it, I'd be like the shy kid who kind of wouldn't do anything, wouldn't stand up, or wouldn't, not stand up, obviously I can stand, but like stand up for kind of what he believes in, and I didn't really know who I was. And it's really, really changed me. And actually, my brother and sister are both work in health fields as well, as does my wife. And it's I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing nursing or being a substance misuse nurse right now, because there are jobs and then there are jobs. Like some jobs are not kind of meaningful and they just don't add anything to the world or anything like that. And there are some jobs that do. And I've always wanted to do a meaningful job. So at the end of the day, whether it's difficult, whether it kind of you get a lot done or you have to do some crisis work or something, at the end of the day, you've helped keep people safe and you've helped kind of remove a health problem or issue, and I feel like that's kind of meaningful work. Like I'd rather do this than work for a bank, even though I probably earn twice as much money. Is it? Am I making a positive impact on the world? And I've always wanted to like be able to look back at my life and think actually it's been a good kind of innings and you've done a lot of meaningful work. And it's yeah, currently that's how I feel. I don't know if I'll be a nurse for life. I've had chats with other nurses I trained with, and they're already thinking about exiting stage left, doing a different job. But it's so broad. Like I mean, Alex, you said last week you've done accountancy and corporate kind of finance and stuff in loads of different spaces. There are loads of different kind of avenues to nursing. So I've worked in that learning disability hospital that I originally was a support worker in. I've worked at two substance services. I've worked in an ADHD clinic. I've done agency work in the crisis team, in the children's unit, kind of all over the place. And you can specialize in any particular thing. You can do a master's in something particular. You can be, I mean, there are like if you think about, I mean, even just general, sorry, even like mental health nurses, there are like community mental health nurses. There are the nurses that work in inpatient settings. There are kind of specialized ones that also do therapy. There's ones that do addictions or substance use. There's like specific wound care ones as well. It's really, really broad. So if you do get kind of burned out in one area, like you can just switch to another area and pick up a new thing and kind of learn it. It opens a lot of doors for you. It also has helped me double my salary, and on the way to like being financially independent, that's really helped. Um, I mean, I think all nurses are mostly underpaid right now in terms of inflationary rises for sure, but I've gone from earning, what did I earn as a support worker, 18,000, and now I earn what, 42. So it's made a meaningful impact on my life. It's without it, I was kind of living hand to mouth. I was bringing in £1,100 and I would spend upwards of 1,000 just living in my little flat on my own. So it's been able me to do extra things in life, and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah, and I think on that as well, it's like you were saying before, you've got that qualification for life. So you've more than doubled your salary from pre-training to post-training and where you are now, and that will only, I guess, increase over time. But you've almost set yourself a floor then as well as of salary, because you know you're always going to be able to earn a really strong salary.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And when you first qualify, like as a band five, I don't know what the current salary is for him. It's 29 or 30,000 or something sillily low in my opinion. But that kind of is the floor. And now that you kind of go up, you get a couple of years experience. Like I was talking to a guy I work with about nursing, and he said, kind of, what's it like? Do you regret it? Is it kind of useful, etc. And I was like, well, yeah. And he said, like, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you get paid? And I was like, well, I'll just tell you, it's no problem. And I said, like, I wouldn't ever take another job again that paid me less than minimum high 30s, like
Yeah,
absolute minimum. I just wouldn't consider it because I know I
yeah,
can find other work somewhere else. And gone are the days that I earn less than £1,000 a month.
mm,
For sure. I mean, obviously, I do a different job, and people get paid different rates for the value kind of they provide, not necessarily linked to value. But I'd get paid differently to a doctor, I'd get paid differently to a support worker. We do different jobs, we have different knowledge, we have different pressures. So it's something that I think will always pay me both kind of emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially as well. I get gain like benefits from it on all areas. On top of that, I kind of like doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's so positive to hear, because I know you speak to people that can't stand their jobs and can't wait to get out of them.
Exactly. Yeah. So like a lot of the fire things are people who can't stand what they're doing and they just want out. And I'm like, well,
Yes.
out into what? What are you going to do when you're done? Um, Whereas, like you said last week, when you kind of formally retire, you might do some consulting work. You might work a day a week, and that's 100% an option for me. Like I could retire from full time work and work a day a week, 2 days a week,
Yeah.
like wherever that may be. Kind of drop in, earn a bit of money, and if your investments are paying your bills, you can spend all the money you make. For nursing as well, we have to revalidate every 3 years, and it's a bit torturous as a task. So we have to do minimum 300 hours of clinical practice per year to retain your registration and do a load of other kind of stuff to revalidate and constantly learn and document all these things. So you can't like have a 5 year gap and be like, oh, I want to do nursing again. I'll just get another job. That's not how it works. Everyone constantly has to continue and show their continuous professional development, or CPD. We prove all of that to the NMC, which is the Nursing Midwifery Council. And every 3 years, you have to send them a load of information about what you've been doing, what training courses you've been on, where you've been working, how many hours you're putting in, what you've learned in the past year. And they kind of grill you each time, and kind of, should you still retain your registration? And if you don't meet those criteria, they'll suspend your registration. And at that point, once it's suspended or stopped, you cannot practice. You cannot get another job. Because the first thing any employer will do will check you on the nursing register. Anyone can check anyone on the nursing register. You could put my name in on the NMC online portal and find where I trained, what year I passed, and whether there's any restrictions on my practice. So that's freely available for everyone to do. So you have to put in a continued kind of effort. It's not just a one and done qualification. It's continuous. And you'd want people to continuously learn. Like there's no good like you being an accountant and you only know tax laws from 5 years ago.
Yeah. I think there's quite a lot of similarities in that respect. But I think, yeah, for anybody, I guess, wanting to get into it, is knowing that, I guess, being aware that you don't just do the qualification and that's it. There is this
No,
ongoing work, which
massive.
is rewarding in itself, I find anyway.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be ongoing and rewarding and stuff. And I think if anyone does want to do nursing, I would 100% advocate it, but make sure you're not in it for money. We don't get paid that well for the amount of hours and effort we put in and the stress kind of we get kind of dealt with. Like today, I had a patient every half an hour. Most of them turned up, which was kind of stressful. People coming a bit late, you got to see them. One guy hobbled in with a wound on his leg, and I was the only nurse in the building. And I was like, right, I'll just patch this, then go back to scanning someone else's liver. Then I'll do a hepatitis screening for someone else and check someone else in the waiting room who looks a bit peaky. And it's kind of all over the place. So I really didn't get a time to kind of collect my thoughts or do anything else. So it's a lot. If you do want to do nursing of any kind of description, one of the things I found most difficult during my degree was the biology exams, and learning human biology, anatomy, how the major organ systems work would be a humongous benefit. So something like I don't know, YouTube tutorial for a doctor of how human anatomy works. Read biology books just to get yourself in the right frame of mind, and just learn some of that. So you have that in the bag, so you don't have to kind of go from 0 to 100 within kind of 12 months. Start early and just kind of understand how blood pressure works, understand the major organ systems, how your heart is connected to your lungs and how your blood flows, etc. What's normal, what's not. It would be incredibly helpful to kind of learn that, and also do some work in the field. Yeah, do some bank shifts as a healthcare assistant. If you know anyone who works in a hospital, ask them what it's like and get some first-hand knowledge and stuff. So I think it's not something you do for money, something you do for kind of passion and a willingness to help other people. At the same time, it's the job that's paid me the most money, and it's the most rewarding job I think I've ever done. So right now, I don't see me not doing nursing. I'm certainly not looking for any jobs outside of nursing at all. And I've been doing nursing now since 2019, coming up to 5 years in October. And really, the years have flown by. It's yeah, crazy. That basically is a whistle stop tour of kind of how I got from there to here. At the same time, like go to an open day for your local university. I don't think they do open university degrees for nursing because you've got to do the clinical practice element, the placements. But look up whatever your local uni is and go in and speak to them. Go to one of the open days. Speak to some of the student nurses that are there, and just see what they think. You'll get a kind of a feeling whether it's for you or not.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice. And like, as with anything, isn't it? It's just making sure you do the due diligence and make sure it's right for you before committing. And
definitely, it's a lot of time. It's can be a lot of money, a lot of sacrifice all round because it won't just be you. It's the people who are around you has an impact on. So, yeah. So I think I've been talking quite a lot, and when I go on tangents, I go on proper tangents. So I think if you have any questions about it, the kind of accountancy, nursing, do send either Alex or myself an email. It's just nursingyourwaytowealth@gmail.com. We can point you in the right direction, give you some stuff to read. But in terms of kind of general mental health things, there's a huge amount of guidance online. Get it from an official source. I mean, the Mental Health Act is long, it's very wordy, but it's a good source of information. I'd stay away from kind of TikTok and whatever YouTubes and people who think they've got bipolar but they don't, and all sorts of misinformation around that. Get it from an official source. Speak to obviously someone who's qualified. And if you do need help with your mental health, it is around. Do ask the question. You can either speak to a GP, you can ring NHS 111. They have a mental health wing or segment now for that too. Don't suffer in silence. Don't feel like you don't deserve the help either. If you need permission to make that phone call to initiate some support from you, have that from me. I can give you that, no problem. But generally, kind of look after yourself. We talk here a lot about financial health, but mental health and physical health are humongous components of that. And yeah, just be kind to yourself and someone else if you can.
yeah, I think that's a lovely way to conclude.
Yeah, I think so. Do you have any other thoughts or questions on it?
No, I mean, it's just amazed really again just at the sheer variety of it, and I think it just sounds like an incredibly rewarding career path, and you're clearly very passionate about it, and you've done, it's not just improved you financially but as a person, and I think to be in a career where you actually enjoy it and you look forward to it, I think it's testament to the decision that you made, and for to everybody around you, I guess, that helped support you do it. And I just think it's so good of you to have done that, and what a lesson for everybody listening, that some commitment and hard work in an area that you're passionate in can lead to it's life-changing.
Yeah, it really pays off. It really pays off. Like, so I'm similar to you for accountancy. Like, no one gives you that qualification. You put in the effort. You back yourself to do the work and to know that, yeah, you don't know everything right now, but you can learn these things. And to give yourself that opportunity, because if you don't have that first conversation with somebody. Like, I don't have that first conversation with my employer. I'm not where I am today. I don't know where I'll be in any way, shape, or form at all. So, be a little bit brave. Have the conversations. Do the research. Go a little bit out of your comfort zone, because that's where the growth happens. And I think you're very likely to find progress in that area. And you literally, you never know where it will take you. Yeah, be brave, do the thing. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.